Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm welcome to Visionary Pulse, a segment that focuses on chatting to game changers and change makers. I'm Farzana Mayet, your host, and this evening we speak to one such game changer and change maker. We say a very good evening and Assalamu alaikum to Mas'ooda Varachia. She's a dynamic and purpose-driven leader operating in the intersection of technology, innovation, and community development. As the CEO of Raven Technologies, she is at the forefront of building scalable digital solutions that drive real business value while advancing inclusive participation in the fourth industrial revolution. With a strong academic foundation in psychology and psychological counseling, she brings a unique human-centered approach to technology and business. Combining technical innovation with a deep understanding of behavior systems and impact, her work is not only about building platforms, but about solving real-world challenges in ways that are sustainable, scalable, and meaningful. Her influence extends beyond the tech space into agri-tech and rural economic development, where she has led pioneering initiatives that integrate the IoT technology into a flagship beekeeping program through the successful partnership with Mine Workers Development Agency. Through this work, she has enabled farmers, particularly women and youth in underserved communities, to monitor hive health, environmental conditions, and productivity remotely. This innovation is transforming traditional practices into data-driven enterprises, improving both yield and livelihoods. She is also the driving force behind a new brand, Habibi Honey, a purpose-led brand that moves beyond primary production into value-added processing and market access. We say a very good evening and a warm welcome to Mas'ooda Varachia. Mas'ooda, assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining me on Visionary Pulse.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me, and also thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
Mas'ooda, this is such an amazing portfolio. Congratulations on all your achievements. You are an award-winning woman as well. You have so many portfolios under your profile. How do you manage it all?
Sometimes I ask myself the very same question. We talk about balancing things. I think for me personally, I don't necessarily believe that balance exists, especially as being a woman entails doing so many different things all at once. I do, however, believe in sacrifice.
Absolutely.
So what that means for us is you won't necessarily always have the balance you're looking for, but you've got to sacrifice what is most important to you and what isn't. So you've got to decide, do I go out for that social gathering or do I stay home and work on that proposal that needs to be submitted?
I so agree with you. There are certain sacrifices that are really imperative to your growth. And I think as a woman, as a career-driven woman or as a career-driven person, individual, it's very important to make the right choices.
Exactly. And it's not always an easy decision to make.
Okay, so Mas'ooda, your work sits at the intersection of technology and humanity. How do you ensure innovation remains deeply human-centered in a rapidly advancing digital world?
So I'd have to give credit to my background in psychology for that, because with that kind of thinking also comes, you want to understand how do people think, how do they behave, where are the access barriers, and also it comes down to where does the fear and where does the motivation lie. And we also then have to take it back to thinking about Africa as a whole. When we think about the continent is so full of massive untapped potential and talent. And what that means for us is we need to create more access for Africans. And I mean, we are resilient people. So
Absolutely.
by us lacking in giving them access to opportunities, systems, and just basic tools, we are kind of getting them to a point where we're not walking forward, we're kind of walking in reverse.
Yeah.
And that is a sad reality that we are facing. And so as a community and as a people, we need to find ways of advancing our people and creating that transformative narrative.
Absolutely, well said. So as the CEO of Raven Technologies, Mas'ooda, what problems are you most passionate about solving right now, and why does it matter for Africa's future?
So I would say I am most passionate about solving the issue of access and innovation. And it's like I mentioned previously, as a continent, that is the issue that we're sitting with right now. We talk about advancing technology and advancing women in these spaces, but we're not creating the right kind of access for them. And again, when I take it back to technology, people always have this assumption that AI is here to take your job. But the
Yes,
truth,
and a lot of people are getting panicked about that, right?
yes, but the truth is, it's also making room for new types of skills.
Yes.
And so when we create the systems that we put in place and we create the access points for people in these rural communities, not only are you bridging that gap in the digital divide, but you are also saying that nobody gets left behind.
Absolutely. I so agree with you. Mas'ooda, you've also successfully integrated IoT into beekeeping. What inspired this idea and what has been the most surprising outcome from this initiative? I would think that it's two vast different, career spectrums, and now you've integrated it. What is it like?
So for a lot of people, beekeeping is still so underestimated. And what people don't realize is that it plays such a critical role in livelihoods, pollination,
Yes.
biodiversity, food systems, and just ecosystems in general. And so it started off with an idea and trying to solve basic agricultural challenges with smarter solutions, if I can put it that way. And so what we did was we saw an opportunity to combine traditional agricultural practices with smart technology. And what this means was we then developed IoT sensors that gets embedded into the beehives. And I know it sounds so strange because people wonder, why would you want to put some form of monitoring into a beehive? And what we've seen in South Africa is there's so much of beehive vandalism as well as theft.
Are you serious?
Yes, I know it sounds so ridiculous, but I
Yes.
mean, with a lot of our beekeepers, we found that they've lost, over 60,000 rands worth of beehives, and that's excluding your yield of honey, going into the hundreds of thousands of rands.
And Mas'ooda, like you said also, that it's so underrated. Nobody knows the importance of bees. Nobody knows.
100%. And I mean, bees pollinate 70% of the crops that we have, and that's on a global scale. And I think where the technology comes in and why it plays such an important role is it allows beekeepers to actually monitor the data. So it monitors temperature, humidity, rainfall, and most important, GPS tracking. So
Okay.
if someone has got your hive at the back of their bakkie and they're moving, you instantly get a notification that this thing has now been stolen, it's now on the move. So it also creates that alert for the beekeepers where they can
Okay.
actually take the right precautions and be proactive, versus
Instead
actually
of reacting after,
yes,
after
100%.
the deal has been done. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. So how do you see the agri-tech transforming rural economies across Africa over the next decade?
So definitely in the next decade, we are going to see a massive shift in agri-tech, and this is going to be transformative for the local economy. And with us talking about the digital economy and talking about how agri-tech is going to change people's lives, if we take it one step back, agriculture in itself across the continent is already transforming millions of people's livelihoods. So can you imagine if you add a tech spin on it or smart solutions spin on it, it then becomes an entirely different game changer for the industry because you are creating convenience for these beekeepers. And when we talk about things like smart farming, you are now giving farmers the ability to monitor the data, optimize the data, and enhance their productivity.
That is absolutely amazing, and this is something that nobody absolutely hears about on a daily basis.
Because
So
people don't think it's relevant, right? You just think about the
Absolutely.
traditional farmers, but
they're
I mean,
going about doing their work and
exactly. But I mean, if you look at smart farms now, they are using drone technology to just spray the farms. So you don't necessarily need manpower with guys going and physically watering crops when you can actually have it being done with a drone, which gives farmers, it cuts their labor time in half and gives them time to focus on other aspects of the business.
and it's not so tedious as well.
Yes.
So times are changing.
Yes, it's a matter of convenience.
That's absolutely amazing to hear. So Habibi Honey represents more than just a product, it's a movement. What story are you most passionate about telling through this brand?
So Habibi for me is something that I'm so passionate about. You can even see as I'm talking about
Your
it,
eyes just lit up.
it's like I'm speaking about a crush. So for me, Habibi Honey is more than just a brand. It is about telling a story about community, sustainability, empowerment, and for me, most importantly, it tells a story about African excellence.
Okay.
And behind the brand, you have people, you have actual livelihoods, and we talk about building actual ecosystems. So Habibi started out as actually being a brand voice to the rural community. You're not necessarily going to find a premium product in rural South Africa, but we can actually bring rural South Africa back here and tell that story. And so what's also so important with Habibi is that at the end of the day, you are not just purchasing a product and experiencing that product. Right. You are part of a bigger movement that speaks to you actually participating in environmental stewardship.
So actually, Habibi Honey is the voice for the voiceless. You are bringing the bread out there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so just to give you a little bit of backstory on that is, through Raven Technologies, we obviously run this incredible digital beekeeping program, and we try and kind of cover the entire value chain from manufacturing to doing the training to providing these beekeepers with tools, equipment, PPE, all the necessary things. But the issue that we have is what happens when you start producing the honey? Where's your access to market?
So nobody was looking at that, Mas'ooda, and you saw a gap and you decided to...
We saw an untapped market there. And
dot
again,
the I's and cross the T's, right?
Exactly. And I mean, beekeeping is so essential to every living thing. And so what happened was, through our partnership with Mine Workers Development Agency, we then managed to offer off-take agreements. And what this meant was we then buy the honey back from these beekeepers at a premium, which then creates sustainable income for them. It's an ability to start their own businesses. It's an ability to put food on their tables. And for us, it meant taking that honey and what do we now do with it? And that is how Habibi Honey came into existence, where we then said, why don't we then tell their story? Because at the end of the day, it's their hard work, their efforts, and it's their yield. And what better way to do it than through Habibi Honey?
That is absolutely amazing. So you focus on building ecosystems, Mas'ooda, rather than isolated solutions. What does a truly sustainable ecosystem look like in practice?
So I would say from the beginning, it's got to start with intention. And when you're taking it back to rural communities, again, we have a very different model that we work with, which is ownership. A lot of times you have people that are running programs and they just go and you put infrastructure down and you leave. But the truth is you've not provided people with the necessary skills, and vice versa. People go, businesses go and they provide all these incredible skills training programs, but then at the end of the day, there's no access to market for these guys, or there's no proper infrastructure.
So like you're doing the work, but the after work after that, the afterthought of the actually putting in the hard work, nobody thought about that.
Exactly. And so if you want to build a sustainable ecosystem, you've got to factor those things in. Is who are we doing this for? What is our purpose? What is the game plan in the next 6 to 12 months? So you've got to create an end-to-end solution that makes sure these people are taken care of once you leave as well.
So many initiatives struggle with long-term impact, Mas'ooda. Like you just said, how do you ensure that your projects create lasting economic opportunities rather than short-term success?
I think that's quite a tough one, because I don't think a business goes into a project and thinks in their minds that, I want this to be short-lived, I want this to be a short-term,
not.
And so I think, again, it comes back to your intention and what you have planned for the community. But with this being said, you've got to work on end-to-end solutions that incorporate a bit of everything. So you can't have one without the other. You can't have infrastructure without the training, and vice versa. And that's why with our program, it's so important that we kind of captured the entire value chain, where we said it's not just about giving them the beehives, but providing them the necessary skills to create a sustainable business out of it.
So everything goes hand in hand.
Yes.
Okay, so with your background in psychology, Mas'ooda, how do you approach leadership differently from more traditional tech leaders?
I would say with traditional tech leaders, it's more about systems, output, speed. And yes, those things are important, but
would you say it's all AI, the thought process of it?
I'm not going to say a bad thing about AI. I absolutely love AI. I use it in my everyday life. It just, cuts my time management in half, and it just makes life so much easier. But with that being said, there's also a very real human element to it. And I think this is where my psychology background really kicks in, is because I don't want to be a leader that is just focused on outcomes. I also want to be a leader that shows kindness and knows how to trust her team and leads with empathy. And I think that becomes so important when you are leading small or big teams, because at the end of the day, we don't lead by instilling fear in other people, because that's when they shut down. And so when you show people that we can connect on this level, you'll see that people are a lot more productive. And so I always say it's EQ over IQ that wins every single time.
And it's obviously leading by example, Mas'ooda, because if they're seeing how their leader is leading, obviously they want to follow suit.
Exactly. And the idea is not for me to be a leader forever. It's for the next person to take my
over.
place. And then, it becomes a domino effect.
So, Mas'ooda, what are the biggest barriers women still face in entering sectors like technology and agriculture, and how do we begin to dismantle this?
Farzana, that is such a powerful question, and it's definitely something I want to touch on. So there are so many interconnected barriers that women face. Anything from social biases and expectations, restricted access to funding or capital opportunities, or limited access to opportunities. For me, the one important thing I would say is women representation and visibility, because at the end of the day, when a young girl doesn't see enough women who look like her in those sectors, she starts to question whether or not she actually is going to make it into that space. And so I believe it's not just about getting women into these sectors, but also getting them to a point where they thrive, they're able to lead, and they get to a point where they can reshape the narrative. And in order for us to dismantle some of those barriers, we need to again look at how do women get enough access to those opportunities and mentorship, because that also plays a very important role. Where do the opportunities in fundraising or capital lie? And also just basic training in self-confidence.
I love that. Yes.
So, when women walk into rooms, they don't feel shy, or they don't feel like, oh, I don't belong here.
Yes.
And that is something that we all struggle with. And I think it makes it so easy when you stand shoulder to shoulder with powerful women that show you that, no, if I'm here, that means you are meant to be here.
Yes.
Exactly.
I love that. So you are deeply involved in youth empowerment as well. What skills do you believe young Africans must prioritize to thrive in the digital economy?
I would say digital skills. Digital skills are becoming more and more prominent in a global world. So you can have your basic degree, or this is something that's so important and something that I'm so passionate about, is we still believe that a traditional degree is gonna take you all the way. But the truth is, you don't need that anymore. As long as you are tapping into some sort of digital skills, whether it's AI, cybersecurity, IoT, and I know it sounds so challenging when you think about it.
And difficult.
And difficult. These are such big words. But the internet has made it so easy for people to watch YouTube videos, to do short courses, and kind of upskill yourself, whether you're doing it from
the comfort of your home,
from the comfort of your own home. And this then creates potential within Africa to say that even at a school level, you can learn the basics of basic technology and then take that further. And you can always enhance those skills because the training is now available. And I'll take it back to my own example. I have no background in technology. My background is 100% psychology. I'm a graduate. I hold an honors degree in psychological counseling. But when I interned at Nokia, that became a taste of what technology is like, what doors it can open.
And once you tasted that, you wanted it all.
I wanted it all. It was such an amazing experience. And everything that I learned about the Fourth Industrial Revolution came through doing short courses, reading up, checking what's happening on YouTube, what are the podcasts that are being launched, what are people saying about technology, and how do I fit into the space? How can I use that with my background and actually just impact people? Because that's what it comes down to, right?
Exactly.
How do we impact people? How do we help them to grow?
So you took your passion basically and you decided to upskill yourself, in learning everything. And once you were 100% sure that this is what I want to head into, you jumped straight in.
And I jumped straight in, but I also had incredible mentors, and I still have them.
Right.
And what they would do is they kind of literally pushed me out of my comfort zone to start leading before I even felt like I was ready. Otherwise, I would still be on the sidelines. But they held my hand and they pushed me into the spotlight, and they made me feel as though just because you don't know everything, that doesn't mean you can't have a voice and you can't make an impact.
That's incredible. So how do you balance purpose and profitability when building businesses that are both impactful and commercially viable?
So I believe that both of them go hand in hand. I don't necessarily believe that there's one working against each other. But at the end of the day, I think when you have purpose and you are so driven, you will find a way to make that business very profitable. Whether it means going out and looking for the right kind of funding, whether it means tendering or taking out a loan. I mean, I've met people that have gone and actually sold their gold jewelry just to fund their startup businesses. And so I say they both go hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely. And I think the passion is most important.
Yes.
The passion that you put into anything, and if you believe in your brand, it will reap benefits. There's no way that anything can fail if you don't have that passion behind you.
Exactly. And you've got to love what you do, right? Because that's where the that's
what
where
I
the
love.
passion comes from.
Yes. I love that. I love that about you, and I love what you're saying, because this is something that I attest to as well. If you love what you do, you're never going to work a day in your life, right? As
Exactly.
the famous saying goes. But I think also, if you love what you do, you're going to put 200% day in and day out to make sure that your baby is successful.
And that's exactly what it is, right? It's your baby.
So, Mas'ooda, what has been one defining moment in your career that significantly shaped your leadership philosophy?
I would say that it would be building a business from the ground up. Being a female woman in the tech industry, that was my defining moment. Because like I said, I also had mentors and great leaders around me that pushed me into the space before I even felt like I was ready. And people kind of misunderstand, or they have this misconception about what it is to build a business.
Yes.
They think it's all unicorns and rainbows, but it's actually not. It's a lot of hard work. It's not a 9 to 5. It's a 24-hour
Yes.
job. And it's like you mentioned, Farzana, it becomes your baby where you then have to give it your 200%. And that becomes the defining moment, not just in your business, but in your character, where it tests your grit. Do you have what it takes to make this a success?
Absolutely. So, Mas'ooda, if you could leave one lasting legacy through your work, what would it be, and what needs to happen today to make that vision a reality?
It would definitely be building sustainable platforms and the right kind of systems that generations from now will look at and they'll still be able to utilize, and mainly creating this for women and youth. And that's on the professional side of things, because I mean, what we talk about is always ownership, and so every platform that we build includes that. So we think about what is the future of technology going to look like in the next 10 years, and how can we make lives better? How do we create an inclusive environment for people, especially in rural communities? And the reason why I keep going back to rural communities is because that is where the biggest gap lies. And so I would say that would be my legacy from a professional perspective. But I think on a personal level, Farzana, the most important truth that I have is I just want to be a good leader. I want to be a kind person, and I want to be an empathetic person. And so when I am long gone, I want people to remember those bits.
And your legacy to live on.
Yes, as that you don't have to be a harsh person or bullish or be one of the boys in these types of industries to be remembered. It's the way you lead that will leave people remembering you in the best possible way.
That is so impactful what you just said, Mas'ooda. So, a motivational quote that gets you through the day?
Based on everything that we're talking about right now, I would say that success means so little if you are only doing it with yourself in mind, because true success means paving the way for other people to grow and creating room for others to rise.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really impactful. Mas'ooda, I want to thank you so much for joining me on Visionary Paths. It has been an honor and privilege having you. Wishing you all the best and all the luck on all your future endeavors. I know this is going to grow very, very far.
Thank you so much, Farzana, for hosting me and being such an incredible host, and I look forward to both of our journeys as we continue.
So that was Mas'ooda Varachia on Visionary Pulse today. Join me next week as I chat to another visionary game changer and change maker. This is Farzana Mayet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good evening to you.